Welcome back. This is lesson 8. Now, we've journeyed through understanding your winning mindset, raising your expectations, and confronting any discomfort that we have with success, even though that may seem strange. Now it's time to tackle one of the most significant barriers to achieving your fullest potential, the fear of failure. Understanding the fear of failure is it's a powerful emotion that can subtly influence every decision that you make. While some people actually harness this fear and turn it into motivation to excel, many find that it really hinders their process or slows them down, leading them to choose a safer, less rewarding path. Fear often manifests itself in self-sabotaging behaviors, causing us to get in our own way and limit our achievements. But here's the good news. Fear is a self-created barrier. Now, you may or may not agree with that. I'm going to say it again. Fear is a self-created barrier. And with the right mindset and strategies, you can overcome it and unlock new levels of success. So that's what we're going to focus on. 9 different ways that we can overcome the fear of failure. So let's get into it. First of all, we need to embrace that failure is part of the journey. We're very lucky if we figure out the right way to do something the first time, but that's rare. Short-term failure is much more common. Anytime you want to accomplish something significant, you can expect that failure is going to be part of the process. We have to keep improving our process until we're successful. So we need to shift our perspective. What does that mean, shift our perspective? We have to redefine failure. We have to view failures not as endpoints, but as stepping stones toward success. Every setback is an opportunity for us to learn and to grow. And we have to celebrate the effort. Acknowledge the courage that it took to try something new, regardless of the outcome. So one thing that you can do in order to help redefine failure for yourself, and this is going to be something that's kind of unique. I want you to create a failure log. Now, what do I mean by that? I want you to start keeping a journal of your failures and write down the lessons learned from each one. This begins to turn negative experiences into valuable insights and can be helpful as we begin to train our brain to look at failure differently and not as a roadblock or a stumbling block or a stopping point, but as that stepping stone into the success that we ultimately want to become. So number 2, realize that failure is temporary. A single failure isn't a permanent condition. Failure's like a rainy day. Sunny days always show up again. We have to stay resilient and understand that temporary setbacks happen. Remember that no failure lasts forever unless you allow it to. Each day brings new opportunities. Now, if we begin to dwell on failure, that's the way we continue to extend it and continue to beat ourselves up over it. We have to have a bounce back mindset. We have to cultivate resilience by focusing on our ability to recover and adapt. One thing I use all the time are affirmations. I repeat affirmations to myself on a regular basis. I always look for new affirmations. And anytime you're using affirmations, you've got to put yourself in the present tense. I am great. I am better. I'm getting better and better each and every day. But one of the most powerful ones that always helps in times of when bad things have happened to me is understanding that this too shall pass. Anything that's going on, whatever's happening in my life right now, this too shall pass. Now we look at that, actually that applies in most cases. If I succeed really well, I don't want to get too pumped up and too full of myself. This too shall pass, which means I got to continue to work on and getting better and better each and every day. When I fail at something or when something bad happens, this too shall pass. And the good things are on the way and are going to happen to me again. It's not the permanent, it's not the end. I'm not being buried today. Number 3, find something meaningful to pursue. With enough motivation, fear isn't an issue. There's an old saying, dog in the hunt doesn't know he has fleas. It means that when we're out there pursuing things and focused on getting it done and have a great desire to accomplish it, all of the meaningless things that happen, the stumbles that we take, the things that could bother us, all of those fall to the wayside. For example, if you're feeling inadequate at work, maybe you aren't working in the right field or with the right company for you. When you have enough passion for something, fear is much easier to overcome. So align things that you're doing with your passions as much as you possibly can. Look for purpose-driven goals. Identify what genuinely excites you and motivates you, and passion diminishes fear. And also evaluate the path that you're on. If fear continues to persist in your life, consider whether or not you're on the right path, and maybe some adjustments are needed. Are you pursuing the right career? Why are you fearful of taking that next step? What are you doing? What path are you on? Is that truly what you are meant to do? We have to evaluate that on a consistent basis because our lives change over time. We don't ever stay the same. So here's an action tip. Create a passion list. Write down activities or causes that you're really passionate about and find ways to incorporate them into your work. It's going to help you continue to succeed and continue to drive yourself, again, to overcome that mindset of fear of failure. Number 4, understand that failure isn't personal. Failing only means that your approach wasn't the best option. It doesn't say anything about you as a person. Failure is an event. It's not a person. It's not who you are. Even the most talented people deal with failure on a regular basis. A wrong choice isn't indicative of a fatal flaw. We are all going to make wrong choices. You're never going to get it perfect every single time. There was only one perfect person, and that was Jesus Christ. So we have to detach our self-worth from the outcomes. Separate identity from actions. Recognize that failure isn't about a situation. It's about a situation or a method, not about the person or your value as a person. Learn from the best. I love biographies. I love listening to people's success stories. And as many as they have success stories, every single one of them share that they have had challenges to overcome and they failed at different things. Look at all the different icons that are out there. Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey faced failures before monumental success. Colonel Sanders, the guy who started Kentucky Fried Chicken. Ray Kroc, who started McDonald's. Hear their stories, listen to what they did, listen to how they overcame. And it is about mindset. It's not about the reality of the situation that you happen to be in immediately, because that is temporary. Number 5, stay present. You can't worry if your mind isn't living in the future. So what does that mean? It's only when we project a negative outcome that we become anxious. We're starting to think about things and picturing scenarios of how this is going to turn out, and the way we're picturing it is negative, and that is part of what makes you anxious and makes you that fear of failure, or makes you have that fear of failure. Reality is happening right now. You got to stay in the moment. The future is only a daydream. If you're going to think about the future, imagine success. Frame it as a success. If you're going to, you've got to project success in whatever it is you're doing. That doesn't take away some anxiousness. If you're feeling anxious, it means that you're doing something new. At this very second, you're okay. And you're going to be okay in the next second too. And that's what we have to keep our mind on. Stay present. Focus on the now. We have to engage fully with the present moment to reduce anxiety about the future. Positive visualization really helps with this. When you're thinking ahead, again, picture successful outcomes to build your confidence. Mindful breathing can be a great way to relax your body and help with your mind. Practice deep breathing exercise in order to anchor yourself in the present when fear arises. When you're feeling that anxiousness, you have to stop and take about 5 very deep breaths. Breathe in really deep and let it out. Breathe in really deep and let it out. It's almost impossible to think negative thoughts when you're focused on deep breathing exercise and trying to relax your body. Number 6, learn to enjoy fear. Now what? Learn to enjoy fear? How can anybody enjoy fear? If your life isn't in danger, and 90% of the times what you're afraid of never comes to pass. And in today's modern society, it's very unlikely that your life is in danger because of what you're afraid of. Being afraid is a sign, like I said earlier, that you're doing something new. And only new behaviors are going to change your life. I can't keep doing the same things over and over again and expect different results. That's the definition of, insanity. Is to continue to do the same things and expect different results. No one wants to live the same way or the same day every single day. We're not in... we don't want to repeat the same thing all the time. That uncomfortable feeling is a sign that something amazing might be ready to happen. And we have to embrace that thrill. An indicator of growth is that you view failure or you view fear as a signal that you're stepping out of your comfort zone and growing and into something new. We have to have an adventure mindset. Treat new challenges as exciting adventures rather than daunting tasks. So, another list to make. Make a fear list. Make a list of all the things that scare you but could lead to growth. Maybe it's public speaking. Maybe it's taking on a leadership role. Maybe it's networking at an event. You don't like it. It makes you uncomfortable, but it might be something that you're great at. And so until you try it, you won't know. Tackle them one by one and note down the outcomes. And then analyze what happened, what went well, what didn't go well, that kind of stuff. Number 7, minimize fear by taking action. Action reduces fear. Action overcomes fear. The people that are most afraid tend to be the most paralyzed. But they didn't start out that way. We weren't born afraid of things that we fear today. But by giving in to fear, you teach your brain that fear is an effective way to control your behavior. It will continue ratcheting up the fear because it knows that that's what works. That's what helps control your emotions. It helps control how you're acting, all of those types of things. We can train our brain, but if we don't actively take control and try to train our brain to what we're trying to accomplish, it will train us to do the opposite. It will take the path of least resistance, which is typically fear and staying in your lane and not ever accomplishing anything. And that's not the way you want to live, or else you wouldn't be taking this course. So we have to break the cycle. Action over anxiety. Taking even small steps forward diminishes fear and builds momentum. One step forward. If I can take one more step, one step forward, then I can succeed. Again, we're retraining our brain. By acting despite fear, you teach your brain that fear doesn't control you. So we break things down that may be intimidating into small, tiny, manageable tasks and steps that we can start to take immediately. So if we are afraid of something, just take the one step and list out all those steps and take the first one. And then once you take the first one and succeed, you can take the second one. And then when you take the second one, you can take the third one. I think you get the point. Number 8, look ahead. If you continue to allow fear to dictate your behavior, what will your life look like in 20 years? How would your life be different if fear didn't control your actions? Would you rather be a little uncomfortable now or be filled with regret later? I don't want to get to my deathbed when I'm 85, 90, 100 years old and look back on and wish I had done so many more things. But I have to take action in the now to make sure that I don't live in regret later. Future visualization. Envision both scenarios. One where fear holds you back and one where you overcome it. Which one do you want your life to look like? Use the potential for future regret as motivation to act now. One thing that I heard somebody suggested was to write a letter from your future self. Picture yourself accomplishing that thing that you really want to accomplish and write a letter as if your future self thanking you for overcoming fear today. Sit down, write a letter to yourself, thanking yourself for overcoming that fear and accomplishing that goal that you had. And then go back and read it on a regular basis so that that can help retrain your brain and reframe that fear of failure. Number 9, view failure as an opportunity to learn. Failure might provide a small sting. It might hurt just a little bit, but the information you gain is invaluable. A few small improvements are often enough to turn a failure into a success. Look for the lesson and apply it to your next attempt. You know, when a person is sailing across the ocean, they set a point that they want to go, but they're constantly changing and updating that route because things are the wind, the environment, everything's trying to push them off course. And that's what this does is fear of failure can push you off course from where you ultimately want to be. So you can start heading in that direction, but when your boat moves, and that's not failure, that just means there needs to be a slight adjustment. You learn from where that failure happens or where that adjustment is, and you readjust. Learn from the adjustment and readjust. And those small readjustments every day, every time that something happens will keep you on course for where you ultimately want to be. So we have to transform our setbacks into insights. Adopt the belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. You choose the path for your life. Use each failure as feedback and refine your approach, just like what we were talking about with the sailing analogy. You know, in the military, after they perform each mission, they have what's called an after-action report or an after-action review. I want you to start doing that on everything that you feel like you failed at, and even when you succeed. If you do an after-action review following any setback, ask yourself, what went well and what didn't, and how can I improve on that? By doing this, you're constantly taking a look at it and reframing a failure again as a stepping stone instead of a setback and something that's going to block you from actually continuing on to succeed. Fear of failure is a common obstacle, but it doesn't have to define or limit you. By understanding again that fear is self-created, I'm going to say it one more time. Fear is self-created. You empower yourself to choose attitudes and actions that are going to support your success. Remember, every great success story includes moments of failure. It's how you respond to those moments that determines your ultimate success. And I was listening to Alex Hormozy the other day, and one of the things that he said was whenever he failed, he thought, you know what, this is going to be great as part of my story. Part of my success story is going to be able to teach people about this particular failure that I just went through. This is going to make my story even greater. When we reframe things like that, and everything that happens to us, every setback that we encounter is going to make our success story greater. You've reframed that fear of failure. Now, you've made incredible progress through this first module, confronting fears, building a mindset geared for success. In our final lesson of this module, we're going to tie everything together with a summary and reflection to reinforce what we've learned and set the stage for continued growth. But I really want to leave you with two important things that I think you can do to help overcome the fear of failure and really tee yourself up for that level of success that you're trying to accomplish. I want you to embrace your failures. List your accomplished failures. Write down every failure you've experienced in your life. Yes, that you've accomplished, an accomplished failure, because each has contributed to who you are today. For each failure, identify what you could have learned and did learn from each one of those failures. Now reflect on how those lessons can inform your future decisions and your actions. So why does this matter? Understanding and embracing our failures transforms them into sources, instead of sources of shame or regret, into powerful tools for growth. We want to identify patterns, look for common themes or recurring situations in our failures, and then use those to develop strategies based on those patterns to avoid similar pitfalls in the future. So we're going to celebrate growth, acknowledge how far you've come and the strength you've gained through overcoming obstacles. Every one of us have overcome obstacles. So why does this matter? This reflection solidifies your learning and boosts your confidence, making you more resilient in the face of future challenges. Fear is a natural emotion, but it doesn't have to hold us back. By confronting and reframing our fear of failure, we're not just eliminating a barrier, we're building a foundation for unprecedented success. Remember, you're capable of more than you know, and the only true failure is never trying at all. In the next and final lesson of this module, we'll bring all of these concepts together like I talked about. I want you to keep pushing forward. You've got this, and I'll see you in the next lesson.